us know there's not a continuation.
Call the town council meeting to order for Tuesday, February 21st, 2017 at 7:05 PM. We'll start first with salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Judy.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Here.
Councilor Angeloni.
Here.
Councilor Ahmed.
Here.
Councilor Candelora.
Here.
Councilor Diamond.
Here.
Councilor Manna.
Here.
Councilor Miller.
Here.
Councilor Rose.
Here. A motion to approve the minutes of February 7th, 2017, Water Pollution Control and Town Council.
So moved.
Second.
I have two corrections. First one is on page 2, under section A. It's the third paragraph where it's talking about the funding of the, it says the state funded 20% and the town funded 20, and then it says, which means the town and people funded 80. So that doesn't add up to 100. So I think it's only supposed to be the state funded 20 and the town and the residents funded the 80. Al, you had talked about this, so that.
What was that?
On the sewers up in White Hollow,
The fund. All the 20.
it was 20% funded by the state,
That's correct.
and then the 80% was from the town and the residents?
Well, and the residents, basically, well, the town funded 20%, and then the remainder was assessed against the property owners. I think what Al was trying to say, in essence, in that case, 80% was
paid for by the town.
And townspeople.
Town people, right?
Okay.
So the state only paid 20%.
That's correct.
But yet they are dictating,
Right.
100% what we can do with it.
So it should be, just mean, which means the town and the people of the town own 80% of the line.
Right.
Yeah, which funded 80%.
Right, so that's on page 2, and the other one is on page 8. About halfway down, it's the paragraph that says the discussion continued about the number of claims, and it's the last line of that paragraph. It says that claims could potentially be initiated by the fire department, not imitated. So that's just a correction in the words. So those are my two corrections.
Mr. Mayor, on page 6, also, the second paragraph, the gentleman's name is Ken Graebe, Graebe, not Gravy, Graebe.
Yeah.
And then on page 8, I believe it was, page 10, his wife spoke, and it's Perina, Pierine, Gravy also, Graebe.
Thank you. Any further changes, corrections? Seeing none, roll call.
Mayor Judy.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Councilor Angeloni.
Yes.
Councilor Ahmed.
Yes.
Councilor Candelora.
Yes.
Councilor Diamond.
Yes.
Councilor Manna.
Yes.
Councilor Miller.
Yes.
Councilor Rose.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into our regular town council agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move item 9A, which is the audit presentation by Michelle Losbart of Seward and Monday. If we can move that up on the agenda to before committee reports.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're on the floor.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me. And yes, that's fine, you can stick with the LoSo.
Okay.
It's new. Thank you for having me, and I want to thank Anthony, who just left, but, and his staff. I'll wait till he gets back. Again, this year, it's an unmodified, clean opinion on the government activities, but business activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the town. There are no material non-compliance with laws and regulations reported, nor are there any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses reported. There was a federal single audit performed. The threshold this year was raised to $750,000 of federal expenditures. The town was still over that threshold, so we still had to perform that compliance audit on your federal funds. Again, no compliance issues on those major programs. There's about $883,000 in federal expenditures, mainly on the Board of Education side, for special education programs and nutrition programs. Again, also a state single audit was performed, an unmodified clean opinion on compliance over major programs. You receive about $11.4 million in state assistance. About 1.3 of that is subject to testing. About the other 10 million is mostly education funds that are handled through the Board of Ed and the EDO 1 agreed upon procedure engagement. Your bonded debt this past year, including capital leases, overall decreased about 1.3 million, even though you had about 6.3 million in new bonds and capital leases. Your net pension liability, and this has been one of the areas I've been addressing at all municipalities this year, just because of the timing of the market at 6:30. There seems to have been a significant market decline just at 6:30. So everybody's pension liability seems to have been raised significantly due to that. And the town here went from about 2.9 million to 11.6 million for the three plans combined. Again, most of that due to negative investment performance, just the market value at that time, which affected not only the liability calculated by the actuaries, but also affected your funds that were held in trust for those plans. Obviously, that's a function of timing. As we know, the market significantly changed through the end of the year and is continuing to grow. So you measure that now, it might be a completely different story. The town is making all of their required minimum contributions to the plan on an annual basis, as well as that investment performance being reviewed by the pension committee. Your net OPEB obligation, although currently not recorded on the statement of net position, but in 2018 that will come on as a full accrual liability, just like the pension did last year. And that is probably projected at this point to be between about $5 and $6 million. Those disclosures are all there in the financial statements. It's just that the liability is not actually recorded on the full accrual statements. Your general fund balance at the end of the year stood at 8.1 million, approximately 15.95% of your 16-17 budgeted expenditures. That's an increase of about 880,000 over the prior year. Generally a result of favorable expenditure savings in a variety of areas. Your unassigned fund balance of 6.7 million, that's excluding any open encumbrances for the prior year budget, is approximately 13.2% of that 16-17 budget. And those percentages are basically right in line with what your minimums and maximums that the town council has set for your fund balance for the town. Your revenues overall were about over budget by about 188,000. And as I mentioned earlier, expenditures under budget by about 560,000, and that really transcended all departments. There wasn't any significant spike in one department compared to another. I think the biggest thing this year, obviously, in the accounting department, the retirement of Barbara, who was Tony's right hand, and the bringing on of Anita, who definitely transitioned very well into that. The biggest area this year also was the new self-insured health and dental plan. A lot of work was put into getting that up and running, recording, reconciling with Anthem at year end. It was basically done on a 15-month lag. which created some havoc reconciling town records to the Anthem reports that were coming out. So that did take a little bit of time, and both Anthony and Anita spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get that reconciled, along with bringing in representatives from Anthem and getting additional reports for that. But I think going forward, looks like you've been under all your maximum claim liabilities. You had a significant amount of claims that hit the stop loss, so those were covered by the stop loss insurance this past year. And then again, the biggest thing going forward, I think, as we all know, is going to be the state funding, state issues, municipal spending caps, the motor vehicle mill rates, reduction in overall funding. They're talking about the TRB payments that they might be passing down to municipalities. So obviously, those are the biggest issues, I think, going forward, facing not only this municipality, but all the ones within Connecticut. That kind of sums up my presentation. If anybody has any questions or comments, I'd be.
Could you talk about that recommendation about the Board of Ed and those funds? Why is it impossible for them to find out where that money?
You know what, Anthony and I were talking about that today and through emails, and I do have an email into Don. I was going to try and get an update on that, but I sent it out late to him, so as soon as I do hear, I will let Anthony know and let him.
Because this has been on there for
Yeah,
It's been on there
a
for
lot of
a
it,
couple years.
yeah, a lot of it, I think, was returned and was, there was some capital project fund money that had gone to the Board of Ed that should have came to the town, and that was corrected. But there is a small piece that's
So we're down to
still-
the 43,000,
Yes.
which is what we've been for a couple
Yeah.
years,
That's
correct?
Yes, it was over that, I believe, to begin with.
What does that mean, that seek legal advice? What does
Well,
it?
some of it, from what we can, when we originally started looking at this and when the Board of Ed started researching it, some of it was from grant funds from the state that they weren't sure whether it should have gone back to the state. Getting communication from the state, they talked to them, they weren't getting any response or any clarification of if it should have been returned. Some of the funds just weren't, there wasn't records, they were too old to determine if it was a private source or more state money. At that point, the records weren't there.
Thank you.
Like I said, I will get, and hopefully an update from Don tomorrow, so we can address it.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, under regular town council meeting is reports of boards, committees, and commissions. Economic Development Commission,
No report.
Park and Recreation Commission,
Has not met since the last meeting.
Police Commission,
Police Commission met last week. Usual chief's report in terms of the month's statistics. There's also continuing discussion on next year's budget. The new furniture in the dispatch center for the one dispatch station. And another interesting thing that was talked about was perhaps having Lieutenant make some kind of a presentation for seniors about the annoying robocalls that everybody seems to be getting. And he said he has some kind of a presentation he can make, and I think that people would appreciate that. So a lot of people have mentioned that to me. Is there anything that can be done about that? So that was an interesting discussion. That's it.
Fire Commission, they meet at the first Thursday of the month. Board of Education and Town Council Communications Subcommittee,
No meeting.
Town Planning Goals Subcommittee,
No meeting.
Public Safety Communications Committee.
Public Safety Communications Committee met on February 8th. We continue to work on numbers, and the town council has some of those numbers in your packet. The next meeting is on March 15th, and the Public Safety Communications Committee has invited, is in the process of inviting all of the dispatchers to come to that meeting to have a discussion.
Planning and Zoning Commission,
We didn't have a quorum, so there was no meeting.
East Shore Health District Commission.
No meeting, we're still looking for somebody to take over Bill Chody's spot.
Move into the town manager's report, proposed tax amendments.
Yeah, I'm
to the
sorry,
plan
that
zone.
is actually
Should be
a
text.
typo there. It says proposed text amendments for zoning, planning and zoning, and that is in your packet as an FYI, nothing for action, just wanted you to be aware of it and on your radar, that commission is looking at various text amendments, obviously, as per the packet. So, you know, it's informational purposes and something that they're working on.
I had some concerns on the subdivision regulations. Al, houses with subdivisions with 3 or more lots and a total building square feet equaling 3,000, provision for emergency vehicle access, permanent water supply system for firefighting purposes, permanent concrete cistern with fire department connection and risers venting shall have a capacity of at least 10,000 gallons of water. Isn't that expensive for 3
It
lot
is,
subdivision?
and you know, and I know the fire chief's here, but do we don't even get a chance to talk about this, though?
I don't know, and there's another one in here about,
So I guess,
A
I mean, maybe we have
horse.
to go to
I
the public
mean-
hearing, but I would, and I may be wrong, but you know, we started putting these tanks in the 80s. There's one up McMahon Lane, and Anthony, you might know or not, you know, am I mistaken? I seem to remember that, is there one maybe at Sunnyside or somewhere there was one that was put in, and when they went to hook up to it, it was empty.
yeah, there's one at
Did that happen?
Auger Road
Or am
Extension
I imagining
and
that?
Totoka Road, I believe.
No, you're correct. It's a checkered history on those, and you're right, about the 80s when developers are putting in, there's several around town. There's one on Josie Drive, there's one on Nancy Lane across from Commissioner Della Camera's house. There's one on Auger Road Extension.
McMahon Lane.
There's one on McMahon Lane. There's one on Farm River Drive. That one actually works well. It actually leaches off the Farm River. So the only one that works out of all of them, quite honestly. And what we're looking to do, the fire department, is probably over the next few months, go through and confirm that those are not valid water cisterns. So we're probably gonna fill them up one more time, come back a month later, and just double check the volume if we can on there. But you're right, I think the majority of them, based on our track record, is that none of them actually work, except for that one on Sunnyside
Right.
Drive. So what the mayor's talking about, that the chief and I went to a P&Z meeting for, at Farmington Drive, up the old Shantz property, the developer constructed a 10,000 gallon poured-in-place concrete, outlive all of us probably. What happened on the ones in the 80s, basically people put fiberglass tanks in, they didn't install them properly, they were kind of a byproduct of a subdivision, it wasn't a full thought process, and the result is they weren't installed properly, and you're right, some of them leaked from the get-go. The one on Auger Road Extension, I believe that the talk is that as it was installed, the guy hit it with the backhoe and ripped it at that point. Again, until you dig it up, you really don't know what the truth is. If we do find that they are, you know, waste of time, we'll probably cut the piping off and then get a hold of Public Works to get up there maybe and just to crush them or fill them in or something, just to eliminate once and for all.
So, getting to Mike's point, I think, and I get it, you know, what is that, like a 35 lot subdivision, you know, all the way up there. But for a 3 lot subdivision, this is a huge expense. I mean, I think it's a huge expense for a 3 lot subdivision, and I think that's unfair. But, I mean, I guess I should probably be saying this at a planning and zoning public hearing.
Well, the other point is that one of the things it says here is that the land where the tank is located shall be monumented and deeded to the town of North Branford. So if it's now deeded to the town, is the town responsible for the maintenance on that tank
Liability.
and the whole issue? I'm not so sure that that is something we want to undertake.
Right.
But then how do you also make the subdivision continually pay for it? So.
I'd like to hear from the chief on this.
Good evening. You bring up some really valid and well-taken points. The subdivision that was proposed or is proposed for Totucket Road, which is in the 400-plus address range, as they came through the process of applying for their permits, there was a discussion from the town planner and the building official with the fire marshal with regards to an adequate water supply, an adequate passage for fire apparatus, and adequate lane passage on Totucket Road for fire apparatus and the ability to swing into a multi-serviced driveway in their proposal. So one of the suggestions was to place, similar to what was installed upon the Shantz property, a poured-in-place concrete water supply tank, which we provided them and their engineers with a cost of about $25,000, as a recommendation to improve the fire protection for those homes. Why? Because we cannot have two apparatus move side by side on Pawtucket Road because of the width of the road and the inclines on both sides. On top of that, the width of the driveway would not permit more than one apparatus to have free passage to those residences. And if you look at the configuration of the topography of where these are proposed, if you take a ride down Pawtucket Road, you'll see the lot being cleared. It has the ability to compromise our operations, and from a tactical standpoint, once you commit one fire apparatus to that road, there's no other trucks that are getting by. None. So that's a risk that the property owners will assume if there's not adequate water supply. So what's the closest hydrant to that location? It's on the corner of Mill and Pawtucket. So it's a good distance away in which supply line would have to be laid, and a very comprehensive pumping operation put in place to get water from point A, where the hydrant is, up to another apparatus, and then relayed to another apparatus up on this hill where the homes are to be built. So besides the possibility of putting in a fixed water tank that would not only serve that property, but the area in general, we also recommended to the potential developers the ability to look at the configuration of installing a residential sprinkler system in those homes. So our primary concern was life safety for the residents of those homes, with the compromised ability to deploy fire apparatus safely and effectively in that area, but also increase the level of life safety by having some type of either fixed water supply or residential sprinkler system, which in Connecticut, by the way, is not law yet, but every legislative session, the Connecticut Home Builders Association attempts to put this on the books in Connecticut. It's on the books in many states for new construction. So again, we said to the developers, listen, there's nothing mandated, there's no town ordinance that requires this, but from a public safety standpoint, this is what our recommendation is. Carrie did a lot of research on what other towns are using at the present time for developments and fire protection, and most towns that surround us have very extensive requirements. We have 0 ordinances with regards to fire protection, 0. The use of fixed water sites that are presently in this town have been an ongoing issue with the Board of Fire Commissioners. And at a recent meeting, I stated that as fire chief since 2005, I accept no personal or professional responsibility for the fixed water supply systems that are currently in place, except the one that I know of and was recently improved at the Shantz property. We can find no plans of how these were installed, who installed them, or any other details in town records. So to be safe, we don't use them, with the exception of those that are most effective right now, and as Anthony said, from the Farm River side and Shantz's property. So we can't take any of the other water sources and say we couldn't use them right now. It's interesting because just past week, I got a call from an insurance carrier, and I get these routinely, by somebody looking to buy a house in Company 2's district. And the closest water supply that someone told the insurance company about was this water supply located on the corner of Order Road Extension and Pawtucket Road. And as I explained to them, as I just did to you tonight, it is an unreliable water source. I don't know how big the tank is. I can't tell you how many gallons are in there. But I did inform them that a response to the location in which somebody is buying a home, the response by the North Branford Fire Department would bring in total more water than they can find in that ground. the bottom line is that that would be more effective as a blitz attack, if you would, than having to mobilize resources and go from the fire location back to that portable water source, fill up, and go back to the fire location repeated times until you empty that tank or the fire was extinguished. And I explained to them what the fire flow calculations are and how to determine how much water was to extinguish a fire in their proposed insured occupancy. So again, I'll state to you that at this time, with the exception of the Farm River site and Shanta's property, we are under direction that we're not using some of those fixed water sites because of their unreliability at this point in time. And as Anthony said, as soon as the weather breaks, it's our intention to go out and look at those others and determine their operability.
And Chief, with the residential fire or sprinkler system, will a well run a residential sprinkler system?
Yeah, it could. As a matter of fact, as part of this three occupancy project, we provided them with a substantial amount of information with regards to the cost of putting a residential sprinkler system in, the standards that they follow, and public water supply versus well operations. And you got to think of it this way, you know, sprinkler systems are designed to activate at a certain temperature. The lower the better. And residential sprinkler systems have the technology that they call fast response heads today. So at the incipient stage of a fire, heat would set off a head. That head would put out a engineered amount of water, gallons per minute, to extinguish the fire at the early stage prior to it engulfing an occupancy. So generally speaking, water damage is $10 to fire damage to $1. So, do you want your house to burn, or do you have to clean up the water?
Because I mean, normally you have to kill the power, at a fire. You're not gonna have the sinus connection like you would.
Totally depends on the situation. It's not, you can't say that we generally kill the power.
A lightning strike will, in a fire and electrical box will kill any sprinkler system.
Again, from a fire safety standpoint, we said, listen, here's some options that are available to you based upon the configuration of the topography, roadway, and our challenges.
I just think a 3-lot subdivision is a little too much for 25,000.
Yeah, I agree. Some people's life savings.
So it's a public hearing at zoning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Carrie will be here as well tonight, and certainly we can ask her.
Hey, any other questions? I know the first one about livestock, we lost that in court one time. And I see it reared its ugly head again. But,
It's one of the text amendments.
yeah, it's the first one, I believe. All right, moving on. 2017 vendor in-place resurfacing program.
Yeah, again, this is just informational. The state's come out with a memo for the 2017 paving season, and you'll see that they are two routes listed, 17 and 150, doing approximately 5.5 miles for 17, and then Woodhouse Avenue, 0.7 mile, I guess, there. So I don't know, obviously it's too early to know when, but I would think we'll get a communication, obviously as they get closer to that, but just one of those things that,
If we have any say, the Route 17 issue, can we tell them not to do it at the beginning of school? Last year, 22, it was a disaster.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's any leeway, if it cannot be the beginning of school, that calendar's already set for next year, the beginning day of school. So, the first couple weeks, it would be great if.
The ideal, we always push for, July, August, get over and get done with that. We'll make the request, I can't guarantee.
Right, but if we have any, school's out early, it's out at the beginning of June, so they pretty much have
Yeah,
almost
I'll
all of
give them an
June,
early
July,
heads up.
and August. So if we can tell them or ask them, that would be helpful.
A request I have is that whenever we engage in these long repaving projects, that we widen the road to accommodate the possibility for a walker, a jogger, a bicyclist.
Well, that's what you're gonna need on Woodhouse Avenue, because
You
that's
know, I
tight.
mean, because like when they did 22, they took up the curbing and there was still area. If they open it up another 6 inches, you know, to a foot, then potentially you have a greater margin of safety.
Okay,
So-
I'll make them aware of it. If it's a state, you know, it's basically a repaving program.
No, I hear you.
But I'll
But-
ask them, sometimes they can look at it. Part of 17 does have a bike lane, in it and the like, but I will pass on that.
Yeah, Woodhouse Road is kinda tight anyways.
Yeah, that's a tight line you want.
Yeah. Next item is community events and presentations. Seeing none, citizen statements and petitions. It's resignation and appointments. Appointment of Craig Miller to replace John Pollack to the.
Mayor
police-
Duty,
Yes.
excuse me. As you know, this is my first term on this council, so I'm a newbie, and a lot of this is new to me. But this afternoon, I received a telephone call in which I was accused of committing an act with respect to tonight's appointments. And in my understanding, based on my taking classes with the Bureau, with the Freedom of Information Commission, what I was accused of might constitute a violation. Now, I began my employment as a citizen in law enforcement in 1969. And I retired from related work just a few years ago with the State Police Training Academy. And I've never before been accused of a crime, nor have had my honesty or integrity impugned. And that's not when I was an undercover officer, not as a detective in gambling and narcotics, not as a supervisor, not as a state auditor, not as a researcher for the National Institute of Justice, and not as a training director. So this situation is new to me, and accordingly, I'm seeking legal counsel to protect myself to whatever extent that's necessary. So in regard to this situation, and in regard to the appointments and resignations portion of this agenda, number 7, I'm going to recuse myself from all voting.
Okay. Appointment of Craig Miller to replace John Pollack to the Police Commission, term to expire 12/31/2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin,
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Amin,
Yes.
Counselor Candelora,
Yes.
Counselor Diamond,
Yes.
Counselor Manna,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Abstain.
abstain.
I've recused myself.
So you abstain?
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, discussion and action, appointment pension committee, town council alternate, term to expire 12/1/17. There's no.
That's a placeholder if you're ready for that discussion, if not.
I asked to have this put on there. I am the regular person on the pension committee. We meet 4 times a year, but there is a spot for an alternate. And in the case, I generally do make all the meetings, but we need an alternate. I could not make the last one. It's only 4 times a year, and it meets at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the reason it's 12/1 is because of the election this year. So then a new one would have to get appointed after the election on there. So that's why I asked to have it put on there, so that we could have an alternate appointed.
Anybody have room on their calendar?
Joe is already
4 o'clock in the
on.
afternoon? Joe's already
Joe's
there?
on.
Yes, and I'm the other person.
And that's on Chris.
It's 4 times a year,
It's
pension.
it's on, it's
It's
a
an alternate.
Wednesday, it's
Second
usually
Wednesday.
the second Wednesday.
Second month of the quarter after the quarter.
What time of the day?
It's 4 o'clock
4.
here.
4 o'clock.
They generally go about an hour,
I can't do it.
so.
You know what, I haven't done, I'll throw my hat in the ring for it.
Want to nominate Anthony?
Okay, I nominate Anthony Candelora as the town council alternate to the pension committee.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Negotiations and public.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Abstain.
It's not on here.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
And Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Okay, next is reappointment of Dawn Pearson to the Board of Assessment Appeals, term to expire 12/31/2019.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Next is reappointment of Gerald Fishback to the CIWWA, term to expire 12/31/2017.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
You forgot me.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Thanks.
Question, Mr. Mayor, do we have to appoint somebody to represent the town with the union contracts? Like we discussed. Is that a official appointment?
No, that's just in the council appointment.
Council
That's just the
appointment?
council. Somebody steps in
Okay.
to represent.
Steps up.
Yeah, it's not a,
So I stepped in.
it's not, it's not an,
Stepped in.
it's not an
I
appointment.
stepped in?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we did Lisa Ponte.
No, that's not.
Okay, reappointment of Lisa DePonte to the CIWWA.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Next is reappointment of Joseph P. Civitello to the Board of Fire Commissioners, term to expire 12/1/2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Next is the reappointment of Shirley Gagne to the Housing Authority, term to expire 6/30/2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna. Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Next is reappointment of Steve Torino to the Park and Recreation Commission,
So moved.
term to expire
Oh, sorry.
12/31/2019.
My bad. Quick draw. We tried. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Next is reappointment of John Onofrio to the Permanent Project Building Committee, term to expire 11/30/2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Mayor Duty?
Yes. Roll call. Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Manna? Counselor Rose?
Yes.
We're getting our rhythm.
Next is reappointment of Kurt Ingstrom to the Permanent Project Building Committee, term to expire 11/30/2021.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Manna? Counselor Rose?
Last is reappointment of Tom Caton to the Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire 12/31/2019.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mayor Duty?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin?
Abstain.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Arman?
Yes.
Counselor Candelora?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Manna?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Done. Next is unfinished business, discussion and action. Review of draft RFP for architectural services for the police facility. Renovation and expansion project tabled until 3/7/17. Next is RFP for marketing of 1599 Foxton Road, North Branford, tabled 11/1/16, tabled into 4/4/17.
Mike, do you know what the schedule may be for taking down the building? Demolition.
Oh, I don't have an exact, but I'm hearing first part of March.
Okay.
I'll try and get an answer tomorrow.
All right, thank you.
That went under historical building, right, Mike? Didn't you have to put that
Oh.
under
Yeah, it was
historical?
placarded, it was said the holding period was until February 18th. So
Okay.
we're beyond that at this point.
Good.
And so it would be a green light for Cherry Hill to begin that.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me. Mike, just to clear things up, because a few people have asked, we did seek to get grants to mediate this
Yeah, we were
demolition.
turned
I
down.
remember the brownstone
Right.
and
Oh,
we
yeah,
were.
right.
Right.
Yeah, we were turned down. That was came out of almost over a year ago or longer when Senator Kennedy put together a group,
Right.
put us on track to that. We filed and were turned down for that. And I think largely to the fact that we were just, that the project itself was too small.
Thank you. But people were asking,
Oh, yeah.
and they said, we should have done it, and we did.
We did.
So, okay, thank you.
Next is the fire ordinance, chapter 40. First item is fire rescue billing.
Well, This
Yeah,
is the public
public
hearing.
Public
that's
hearing is
continued
until March.
The whole thing.
Okay.
Postpone.
So that is continued to March 7th, 2017.
Now, Mr. Mayor, do we repost that so the residents know what, because I know it's a continuation and it's already been posted once.
I don't know, Mike, did we put that back in the Totoka Times or the Sound?
We have it. We can certainly do re-advertise.
I know it's in our
if we want.
minutes that it was.
Is it on the website?
Yeah, I'll have to check that. I was out, so I don't know if we've got that up yet or not. But I'll have to check that tomorrow, and we'll do the website, and we'll probably what we can do is look at the Sound for a box ad, and also for Tucket Times for a box ad.
Pat, are we obligated to, we already posted the public hearing once, and then it got continued? Do we need to post a continuation notice legally, or?
I think you should, yes.
Okay.
All right, next item is review and compensation for clerks and boards and commissions.
Yeah, so this question came up at the last meeting, and there is some information collected from CCM on other towns concerning pay scales and rates for clerks of boards and commissions. That is for informational purposes. I'm not sure that you're ready to make a decision yet, but it's part of the information gathering. It's
Seems pretty arbitrary, doesn't it?
yeah, it's all over the board kind of thing, and I think
Didn't help.
ultimately it's gonna come down to whatever this council think you're comfortable with and what you think is reasonable. And obviously, I think you have a sense of which clerks and clerk for which commission, boards and commissions that take a lot of work. Others are not so involved or so difficult. Obviously, this probably being one of the most difficult next to P&Z. I think that has a tendency to scale how you want to do that.
I thought it was interesting, one thing I learned is that, some of these towns pay an hourly rate plus a page rate, right? So then they get paid for their time here at a meeting, and then they get paid per page for the minutes that they produce. I thought that was a good concept.
I mean, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, transcribing, listen to tape, it's not just sitting
Absolutely.
here at the meeting doing that,
Is there a manual for these clerks, that they're all responsible for similar things?
That's the problem, Counselor Miller. They're kind of thrown into it, and it's learn as you go. I don't think there is any written.
One would think there would be a job description
I
and
agree.
standardized expectations.
I agree. And if there isn't, maybe we should look up putting one together.
There's no manual that I'm aware of.
No.
Well, how do they know what to do?
They kind of follow the minutes that the last clerks,
learn.
the last clerks did.
You kind of get thrown in and swim.
Yeah, it's a pretty steep learning
Well, I mean,
curve.
this comes because one is so disproportionately unequal that it's very disturbing. And it's certainly not reflected in any of the rates that are given to us from other towns.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, with the case with Michelle, came in as our newest clerk, coming into it, it's just a lot of phone calling back and forth and sharing information, sharing the sheets and just practice in terms of getting into the flow of things. It's not, there's a technical aspect of it, and then there's just a flow of how you capture information and how you present that. And it's understanding how this body functions is a lot different, obviously, from P&Z or Park and Rec. And so I think, to me, there's a level of difficulty, so to speak, depending on which board or commission you're talking about. Developing a manual, sure, we could. I don't think that's anything extraordinary. I think it would be helpful. But again, sometimes it's just a timing thing. You get turnover, and then I presume you get long periods where you don't have any turnover.
Well, you know what, I think it's important too, the minutes themselves, when there's a discussion up here about something important, whatever it may be, and when you go back and read some of the minutes, they'll say, there was a discussion about a fire hydrant, and Counselor Miller, stated some lengthy thing. It doesn't tell you the
No
substance.
details.
And,
Right.
you need that substance, and you need, I think, because a year from now, 6 months, a month, if you go back to look at the minutes, it would be, I think, important. That's why their minutes are there. So I think that's important, the way the minutes are captured.
Michael, you're probably best positioned to evaluate what's involved with each of the commissions and what their needs are. It would seem to me most logical for you to give us a recommendation of what you think reasonable compensation is for each board or commission should be, and some modest justification for why you're thinking that.
Sure.
They only meet for, on average, an hour and a half versus 3 hours for somebody else.
Right.
Because I just don't have any sense of what these other commissions, what the demands of the job are.
Yeah, all right, we want to put together some research and a recommendation, and bring it back to a future meeting, that you can have it, digest it, take a look at that.
That will work for me.
Yeah. And then, once the minutes are transcribed and handed in, are they like reviewed and then said, you know, take this out, or, you know,
Proofread.
we don't need this, or are, you know, what's in the minutes stays in the minutes? You know what I mean? Like,
I typically have worked with the clerks,
Yeah.
To, you know, or they present them to me and say, I'll use the example, I didn't catch, Anthony did. We have a public hearing and a person comes to the microphone, and sometimes you can catch it, sometimes you don't. But between our sources, within town hall, we get it corrected, we find out who it is. And so the minutes come over with, you know, a name or something, and then I'll correct or find out what the
Sure.
correct name is. But most of the time, it really depends on the clerk, and I know Michelle is much more thorough than I've seen in a while in terms of capturing. But you know, I think it was really long. I mean, if you're looking at, it's not a court transcript verbatim, right? But they were pretty. I mean, you're looking at 18 pages. I think in terms of tonight's minutes. So I think there's sort of an art form of trying to get to the right balance of capturing.
And keeping the important
sentiment of-
information
right,
and
important
subject
information, what's
matter.
important, so forth. So it's a give and take in terms of what you hear, what you replay and play over, looking at notes, and finding out what transpired. So it's a back and forth.
Sure.
And I work with the clerks and to do that. Try to do the best we can to proofread those and get the best possible product we can.
Thank you. Next is review of dispatcher center options.
So I asked Michael to put this on, because I do think that, you know, I'll say it again, which I said earlier in the other meeting, that I think this whole council agrees that we have to do something. And I think that we need to have some kind of a direction for this upcoming budget. So I know that the group that's been working on it, you know, have been working on it for a year, but nothing can happen without this group looking at it, and we're the ones that have to make the decision. So I think that it's time to move the discussions to the council floor. And I think that we should, I know that group has, you know, dispatchers set up to come before them. I would like to see them come before us here. I would like to see the police commission come before us here, or at least invite them. And you know, invite these people to come talk to us. These numbers are helpful that Anthony has in front of us. And Anthony, I would like to see, you know, the one that's blank. I know in 2014, you and the fire chief and, you know, everyone was kind of supporting doing something like that to try and get our foot in the door, moving towards another, you know, in the busy hours.
Right.
So-
The reason why that's blank, as I was completing this memo last week, Lieutenant Lovelace hadn't got confirmation from Old Saybrook, which is what the model he's going to use for that 221, as to how many folks it actually takes.
What does that mean, 221?
2 dispatchers on day shift, 2 dispatchers on evening shift, 1 on a midnight shift. He wasn't sure how many people it actually took to accomplish that. At the time I completed, he didn't have the number for me, so I couldn't compute how many bodies I needed to do that. That's why it's blank.
So the 4.5 dispatchers that we have now gives us 1 24/7.
That's correct.
Okay. So I have some questions on option number 2.
Yes.
The numbers don't add up to that total. You have a cost of $552 but just the first 2 items alone is $600,000, $650.
You eliminate the top 433, isn't that correct?
No.
No, I did this.
He didn't, it's.
This memo came from another-
I typed it, so it might be a typo on my
Yeah.
part.
It just, I mean, if you add up all those numbers, it's 662,069.
that could
I think
be-
it's 123.
It could be a typo on my part.
223.
I think, from my recollection, that the medical is 123.
Yeah, I think that's what the extra 100,000.
Well, it's interesting because down below it has, I mean, at the top it says medical assume all family, but down below when it has medical insurance net for the 4.5, I would assume that those 2 numbers should be pretty close one is 223 in option 2, and the other one is 112 in option 5.
Well, assume as Councilor Arman that the two should be 123 and not option 2. That's a typo. And so the 123 compares to the 112. I see what you're saying. They should be pretty close. There are some differences in the plans between the different unions. That could be account for the difference.
Okay, and my other question is, in option 3 and 4, where it's to have a greeter or a retired police officer in there
Yes.
24/7. So the hours are 8,760, which is having a greeter there
24/7.
24/7. But why would we need someone when the police station is open Monday through Friday during the week?
Because
We don't
you-
have anyone
you
there.
can't-
Because they feel there'd be no one who could be available.
But we don't have one now.
Well,
with the
actually, the
police station
dispatcher,
open.
in a sense, does that.
Dispatchers are 24/7, so you can't count on, because the secretary could be on vacation, could be out to lunch, the lieutenant could be on the road doing a patrol job.
But that's what happens now, correct? And there doesn't seem to be an issue. I mean,
No.
that has
Right,
never
because you
brought
have
up
you have the
before.
dispatch body there. This
Yeah,
is,
right,
this
yeah,
is
but
in lieu of that dispatch body being there. You need a body in the police station.
I mean, I think that's what the thinking was, is that, you know, if you're paying a greeter to be there 24/7, a dispatcher is there 24/7.
Right.
So this is in lieu of a dispatcher body being there. You
Okay.
cannot guarantee that police personnel will be in that building 24/7.
Correct.
And what's the advantage to the retired police person as opposed to a greeter? Is that
There
person
was
gonna be
there was
armed or
talk
something?
exactly. There was talk at the meeting about having a person there with a gun. Quite honestly, at the
So
police
like
station.
the security system we're using in the schools?
Correct. So there's 3 different options, 3, 4, and 5, ramp it up. 3 is basically a greeter, you and I could be working there. 4 is a retired police officer, again,
Yeah.
a person with a gun. And option 5 was the calculation with an actual grade A police officer there in that seat, functioning as the person who would, when you walk in the door, that you meet.
Now, do we have any data on how often use of force is required at the police station under those circumstances?
Is the dispatcher armed right now?
No,
No.
So then that would be
they can't do anything.
having a service that we don't have, if you can frame it that way, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But, I mean, that's what that would,
I,
Yeah.
I mean, for $650,000 just to have another, well, it's more than one police officer because, right, because you have, for the.
Right,
Now,
right.
these numbers here are the additional dispatchers, not the present, right? Or is it,
Correct.
so this doesn't include our present costs for the dispatchers that we have now.
Well, it's that top number that would be eliminated if we went to Branford.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, that top number
That
is what?
502,100 total, correct, under
Right.
number 1?
That's correct.
Right, that's the salary or the account for the dispatchers now.
Correct.
Okay. And now,
So wait a minute,
Is there-
before we get off that, because I've been trying to figure this out. So, do we go to Branford and we only pay $58,000 and we save $500,000? Or we pay $58,000 more than we're paying right now?
58 more than we're paying right now.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's no savings anywhere. All the options cost us money.
Could we see one that saves us?
right. And now, also included
Smoke
in
signals
all
off Kentucky Mountain.
is their capital improvement. In other words, you know, the radios, you know, whatnot, you know, our radios here, public works, you know, all of that is not in here.
Because
right?
that would come from this, that you would get $250,000 from the state if you regionalized.
That's not gonna cover.
Yeah, but
no.
see, and Marie, see,
I mean, that's
I was
a little bit
told
tough.
that never made it to a vote. And I'll throw him under the bus. Vinnie Candelora told me that what you're quoting never made it to a vote in Hartford and it doesn't exist. Do you know that it exists?
When I talked to the person up at the state.
That's not in Hartford, that comes out of the,
That comes out of-
that comes out of your phone bill.
That comes out of your
Right,
phone bill.
he
Well-
told me that the vote to take the 911 money, that was this big amount, not the little amount that we get,
We
never
got-
made it to a vote.
I don't
So
know.
I would like that cleared up.
Well, I have
Yeah.
actual documentation. We
I
I
have
mean, if we're truly getting
$4,000.
it, yeah.
We have $4,348 a year, I think it is.
Yeah, it's small.
Right, for.
And that's from the 911 money.
That's for the 911, right?
Correct.
Right,
So, I mean, I think we should get that cleared up.
Absolutely.
yeah. Because my
Well-
understanding is there's no grant
It's
money.
$250,000.
Because you do know the state is redoing the 911 all over the state, right?
Right. Right, that's a long way off, though. They're way behind, I think, on that, in terms of the
Well, they've been
the
working on that.
software.
Right, they are working on, well, the first company failed.
Yeah.
Now they're redoing it with a second company.
Right.
That's been going on for 6 years.
It was my understanding that that there are some towns in the state that have regionalized, and they have gotten that money. I don't know, Chief, do you know that for sure? My understanding is that you can't, that the state, I was told that the state can't touch that money because it's money that's come from your phone bill.
They have no control over it. That money's in the,
Yes, I don't think that's an issue of voting. That's not a vote at the legislature's
Well,
level.
maybe, Mike, you could call up there and get something in writing, a copy of it, or it's gotta be something.
I mean, we need to guarantee in
Right,
writing that
that's
if we're gonna
there.
make these types of decisions,
Yeah,
we need to make sure that we're
exactly.
gonna.
I wanna see it in
Yeah,
writing,
there are
on hearsay.
two pieces to it, is the one-time fit out, if you want it, or upgrade, and then the ongoing subsidy, is the way I understand it.
You're right.
I'll ask clarification and, for that.
Mike, do we ever get statistics that I've asked for? Who knocks on the police station after 5 o'clock?
Yeah, I haven't, they haven't seen that. I think they have them, but I haven't seen that yet. And in addition, I think we really try and get, call volume, just so we know. And I think that was somewhere along the line, one of the meetings, I think we had discussed call volume, us versus Branford, and so forth, but those are some other loose ends we need to.
Because one of the variables is going to be a dark station. That's got to
Yeah.
be kicked around.
Well, that's why those options are in there, 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
Now, Branford, how many dispatchers do they have presently on? Is it 4 or 6? Do you know?
That Branford?
Branford, how many dispatchers they have?
I think they've got 3.
3?
Is that,
So,
sure.
okay, so let's say they have 3. What is their total cost for those 3 dispatchers?
Excuse me, what's their total cost? I think it was, I think it was presented in one of the pages.
Is Branford planning to add
Isn't that
a
enough?
person?
Did you have that? I think it was like 1.6.
That's my understanding.
That's the share of what
Branford,
what we went with.
their proposal was to
Isn't that what the
take our
question is?
dispatchers.
No, I think he said what they're paying right now.
No, I wanna know what Branford,
Yeah.
their budget is for their dispatchers.
Yeah, I think it
Before
was-
regionalization or after?
No, right now,
Currently.
just what they're paying their dispatchers.
It's, you're talking about
Actually,
an
we can-
hourly rate
can we
or
pull
the
that up?
total?
Well, no, what their
It's in the last
budget is,
meeting.
their
budget.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up here.
Yeah, I think it
It
was,
was in last month's, or last meeting.
right, it was one of the pages that showed there.
I don't remember.
So one of the other things that bothers me on this is, I've been trying to find out what you guys are all aware of. I'm like, who is in charge of the dispatchers in town? And Anthony was kind enough to point out that we created a special committee, which Franny's the head of, that is, and so we made this committee that has sole responsibility for them. They don't answer to us, they don't have posted minutes, and they don't have, so we created this group, and when it got in Michael's hands and the town clerk's hands, they're like, whoa, time out. We don't think that that's what the council meant to do. Or we better talk about this. So if you guys remember, I did ask for the town attorney to give us a ruling on what he thought of that. But, when you really think of it, I think we should just eliminate it.
I would like to suggest, I talked to Mike about this. And that's, this emergency communication subcommittee is dealing with this regionalization discussion, maybe in lieu of the committee that we formed, which really can't go anywhere, issues should be reverted back to that committee, right? Which is there to handle emergency communications. And
It's almost like we duplicate.
I'm just saying, there's, the committee that you're referring to is a redundancy of what this committee is doing. And since they haven't even met, I would suggest that
They've never,
it hasn't gone anywhere,
so I almost think we should eliminate it.
eliminate that, and then when
it's
there's,
over.
right, and when there's issues, then this committee,
Does anybody, and I'm open it to anybody, the fire chief, Anthony, does anybody think that we need this committee that hasn't met?
Well, to put another wrinkle in, there's actually a third committee called the Emergency Communications Committee meeting. If you want to be specific, there's actually like 3 different people doing the same project, if you think about it. There's an Emergency Communications Committee that was solidified in the last year and a half, 2 years.
I thought that's what this committee was. that we're
Nah, this is the Alice question, who runs the show?
Okay, right.
The super super. And so the Emergency Communications Committee is 2 police commissioners, 2 fire commissioners, 2 town council folks, town manager, police chief, fire chief. That's called the Emergency Communications Committee meeting. Then you have created this, I forget what the exact name of it was,
Yeah,
but who runs the show basically? Because the answer was
That they have sole
the police commission, the charter is silent of who runs communications. The police commission runs the police department, no one mentions about communications. So who makes the call, who makes the decisions? And that's what this 4 member, I think it was Public Works,
This
Fire
is
Chief, Police Chief.
Public
Manager,
safety
No,
communications.
that's not what he's talking
And the
No.
director,
But, yeah, EMD, there's five folks on that one. That's supposed to be in charge
the
of,
civil defense director.
yeah. So then you have the public safety communications, there's like 3
I
different
think
people
the
doing the same project.
So can we ball all these committees up into one?
One might be in the charter, or an ordinance that was done about that, emergency
Public
communications
safety.
committee meeting, I'm not sure.
Mhm.
That was, I remember when John was here, there was discussion about that whole thing, so that, may go back a couple of years, but you may wanna check to see they're not overlapping each other.
Yeah, I would like to suggest then, if, if Pat can look into that, and if it is in the charter, then we just ball it all up into one.
I know it's not in the charter, but it may be an ordinance.
No, okay.
There is an ordinance for the public safety.
Okay.
So,
All right, so just, I had like 1 or 2 more little quick questions on the Branford. So, yeah, I'd like to get the salaries or the, and
Well,
the
here,
operating.
I pulled up the sheet that was in last month's, and it says here, this is from the town of Branford, dispatchers 1617, and it doesn't say how many are here, but the budget that they have was 1.13. But Anthony, then they have some handwritten stuff down there, which,
That's me.
well, it says new 2016-17, it goes to 1.659, and then times the percentages.
Right, because if you look at the 3rd column over to the right, it says, with the 1.135 number you see,
Yeah,
the column to the right says, okay, if they take our dispatchers on, what's the new number gonna be?
1.802.
Correct. But that includes 143 of capital, that, as Maria had alluded to, the capital is taken by the 250 grant that we think we're gonna get. So when you back the 1,802,000, back the 143 out, the operating budget is 1,659,000.
But I think Anthony's question was, you wanted to know just what Branford was paying?
Well,
For
yeah.
their,
Well,
just for
how
their
many-
dispatchers?
How many dispatchers they
It
actually
doesn't-
have?
It doesn't say how many
You
they
know,
have, it just.
Because I believe they have somewhere around 10 or 11 and total. So I would like to know what their whole budget was, and then what their call volume is, and then also, their statistics with errors.
So then, Anthony, these numbers here are based on based on Branford or the 2 of us together receiving this $200 and some thousand dollars.
That's right. That's why I took the capital money out of it, correct?
So the numbers on the sheet that's presented to us does not include any capital, it's just personnel.
Right, capital.
Right.
There are 10 current dispatchers in Branford.
10.
Anthony, I don't think, the goal of these discussions is not find a situation where errors don't happen, because
Well,
we all know that is
No,
not possible.
I understand that, but that's been the crux of a lot of the conversations that I'm hearing. But, you know, for 10 dispatchers versus 4, I'm just trying to look at the number,
Right.
you know, and figure that out.
So when you look at this, you know, when you look at these numbers, I mean, it looks like the most economical way is the first option, with no employee in the North Branford dispatch. So then that creates the questions of, you know, are we willing to go with a dark police station, and, or what other way we want to handle that? But, so I'm wondering if we couldn't, so we could get a handle on what the people, like, you know, on the ground think there, or in the, you know, in the trenches, so to speak, in the dispatch seat. So if we could invite, you know, maybe members of the dispatchers, policemen, firemen, I mean, I want to do it, not a public hearing, you know, but I'd like to hear from the people who, you know, work with the dispatchers, and just see what they would want to do, and see if we could invite them to our next meeting. If they can come or not. But then that would, you know, we can see what all their thoughts are on that.
Well, the next meeting, we have the continuation of the public hearing on that fire
Fire.
ordinance. So I don't know if you want to do both of those in one night.
Probably not. So maybe we go to the 2 meetings out. If you, and I'm just throwing this out here, if you guys think it doesn't make any sense, then.
I'm wondering if any of those questions were answered at the meetings that Counselor Diamond was at on this.
Well, they haven't, they're coming on the 15th, the dispatcher, so I don't know, obviously, what their comments are going to be.
Right, and I totally agree that, you know, you've got this thing and it's set up. But my thing is, your committee can't vote on what we do.
Right, I understand that.
So.
All we can do is make a
so-
recommendation.
Right, so, and if you make the recommendation, I'm gonna at least be sitting here saying, I wanna see what these people are saying and
So-
everything. So we might as well do it here.
So maybe the best thing is not to have them come to the public safety and wait and just invite them to a town council meeting.
I think that's, you know what, it's on camera, the people in
Right.
town see what they have to say, and we see how we, you know, what any police officers or dispatchers or firemen, the people that are on the other end of the radio.
Okay, why don't
I would
since I have been, you know, I did talk to the head of that union, and she's thinking that they're coming, those folks are coming to our meeting. Why don't I email her tomorrow and explain that
See
to
if they
her?
wanna come to a council.
And
Or
have
can I
it-
just suggest that we continue on having our meeting with them in our communications meeting,
That's
you know,
fine, too.
and then just, you know, say to them at that meeting, you know, it's the council's desire to have a public forum with them, and they're free to express their opinions.
Well, I'm just trying to save them having to come out twice.
But maybe,
I mean, if I'm the only one here that thinks that we should do this in public, then just kill it right now and continue the way you are.
No, I think,
No, I
I think
agree.
it's a good idea. I think it's, them,
It's a bigger stage, it's the main.
yeah, I think, I mean, I kind of
Important.
want to maybe think that they would be more comfortable in a smaller venue
I know
first,
what I
you
was-
know, and
I
if
think I
they
put something
so
wrong, else,
choose,
something
would
else
want
wrong.
to come to a town council meeting,
Then
or
it's
they
my
can
fault.
send us a letter,
I
right?
must have it
I mean, there's
proofread
different
by
ways of
Anthony.
communicating with council other than standing up in front of the camera. So I would like to potentially see that, since, and plus we've already made arrangements for them to attend our meeting anyways. And Al, you're free to attend our meeting, join us.
Chief?
Mr. Mayor, Al brings up some really good points, and this is such a complex situation that involves providing the best public safety for the community, for the citizens, and the visitors, that the weight of the decision is on the 9 individuals that are seated here's shoulders. We're coming upon a budget time. And this could impact everybody's budget significantly. You have questions that can only be answered by those in position within the former OSET, or Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Office of State Emergency Telecommunications Division. And more importantly, I have 129 members that it's my duty to protect. Life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation are the key values of what we do for the citizens of this community. And everything is predicated upon the actions that the dispatcher takes from the minute they answer that first 911 call for any dispatching of any discipline in this town. I've been accused of some pretty bad stuff. I'm on the same line right now as Councilman Miller, because I'm not circulating rumors that we're gonna have a dark police station. I'm not circulating rumors that I'm eliminating positions in the police department or anything else that I'm being accused of. So my lawyer's on speed dial as well. I strongly urge you to take this into consideration. Because this is such a complicated matter, would it behoove this council to have a special meeting in which the only topic of discussion surrounds the possibility of consolidation, not regionalization, consolidation of dispatch? I think that would be a viable option.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing, because it's easily
Yeah.
gonna take a whole night.
It is, as you said, it's very complicated, so I would support that.
So I think that's a good idea. And then we could invite police, fire, dispatchers.
Right.
And that's,
You could have the state come down with their representatives
right, if
from,
we could do that.
Right,
that'd be
that's a
great.
good idea too, so we can hear from the horse's mouth. What,
as to what you need and
Right.
how it should be done. And
Yep.
what's
Yeah.
required by law.
So there you go, Michael, set it up.
Let's start with dates.
right.
That's probably the hardest.
Right, and you'd probably have to talk to
I'm so confused, are we still
the
having?
state.
No, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Who else to
Huh?
pull that off?
Oh,
Yeah, so maybe the second week and, 14th or 15th, something like
Well,
that.
well,
already
we
doing
have-
The only
budget.
thing
we
that I
have
would say with
budget-
that
we have
is, I
budget
would want,
workshops,
I would
so
want
you
it
just have to look at
a
that.
filmed, there's a filmed meeting.
And I think a representative from Branford should be here too, either chief or
Yeah.
fire
Yeah,
I think
chief
you
or
should
something.
have-
idea.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll have to interject. You may think it's funny, but this room may not be the capacity for those that could attend.
Okay,
All right.
we have bigger
So
rooms.
think about that.
All right.
I would like to just, Al, just to confirm, I mean, it's my thinking, I would like to push for us to continue on our schedule with the subcommittee.
I have no problem.
And then we'll
with,
schedule, this special town
But
council.
you do know the rules of government.
What do you mean? Yeah,
When you
sure.
want something to die, you send it to committee.
Right.
So, so go ahead.
Duly noted.
Keep reading, but, we are the 9 that have to vote on it,
Right.
so. Anyway, I mean, I have no
Yeah,
problem with you guys.
I would think you'd continue on
Right.
until our,
Yeah.
It is
Because
a
you've been working on this for
It's a
a
complicated
year or
issue,
something, so
Yeah.
you guys have a lot of information.
but it's very complex.
I know.
Yeah.
So I guess Mike, get on that and we'll,
Well, we have to give them some dates.
Yeah,
Right,
but
we gotta
we have
figure
to
out
watch
a
out
date.
for budget.
Well, that's why, we have, on the 14th and 28th, we have budget workshops,
Right.
which are Tuesday nights. So we don't necessarily have to do it on a Tuesday night, we can
Right.
go to a Wednesday night.
Well, then, yeah, if you go on the,
And we have to know for sure if that money's coming.
yeah,
we'll get
Definitely.
a,
Unless it's mystery money,
Yeah, that's
and
what
we're
that,
looking
that can't be a variable.
Right.
we'll get a
I agree.
representative.
Everything lies on that. So we have to know
you know
one
what,
way or another
the
if
easiest
that
thing would be
money's
to
coming.
call Middlebury, Waterbury, and find out when they just regionalized, did they get that money? That would be the easiest thing.
You need to look at that $250,000, okay? That's not $250,000 that you get every single year.
It's one time.
That's a one-time cost
For the tech-
that allows for those departments that are consolidating with each other to move furniture, equipment, technology. One-time cost.
So I guess I'll work on, I'm gonna have to poll the group once I look at it, and it sounds like we're changing venues. This is gonna be too small. That really only offers us the, auditorium, but then again, there could be,
Or the cafeteria at the school.
performances or whatever they do start in the spring, I don't know.
They do
Yeah.
have some, so.
So, or the cafeteria, wherever we need, and I'll begin to, sketch that out. I'll
Let's get all actors a date to agree on. That'll be the most impossible thing ever.
So I'll stick to, either a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night, special meeting. Doesn't have to be a Tuesday, because we're making a special meeting. And is there a preference on time?
6 or thereafter.
Yeah, stick with 7.
Yeah, seven's good.
So having said that, Chief or Anthony, so this 250,000 or whatever it may be, that's a grant then for the cost of moving and getting the wires there. It has nothing to do, so I guess my question to you, Anthony, would be, we're not, we don't have to cover that 250,000 in year 2.
Correct.
Okay.
And do we get it, or does Branford get it?
It's a
Probably
combined.
goes to that dispatch center, or?
It's to make do all the technology that needs to happen and equipment to make it
Make the transition.
transition.
Rose, if you look at the memo from last meeting, that, in option 2, that benefit should be 113,776.
And I apologize, it's my typing. That's why I shouldn't be the one taking the minutes.
Or we should be paying you $200 a meeting.
No, Wallingford's rate, 1433.
That it should not be because this doesn't.
All right,
Okay, so are
move-
we good with this then?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So can we add to the agenda within the next couple of meetings, proposal for us to bundle all these communication subcommittees into one, Mike, for clarity? Referring to what Al was talking
That's
about.
Pat's homework.
Yeah, Pat and I will work on
All
it.
right.
I think you should ask the chairman for him roll.
All right, next is, we'll move into new business, discussion and action, review of legal notices, summary of ordinances.
Did I ask for that too, Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'll be
I think
quick.
so.
I know we put in, so our legal notices, we just cover what we have to do legally. And that, so I'll paraphrase it and say, okay, so, we're gonna look at Schedule 40 of the fire code. And that, we're satisfied legally. So what I wanted to do, and it goes all the way back to the propane thing, I think that whether we have to do it from the council level, or whether we just have this thing that's like, okay, is this gonna be controversial, and should we put in the newspaper, hey, we're gonna close the schools in town with this ordinance, or, we're gonna disband the fire department with this, let's somehow, without spending a lot of money, we ought to be able to put it in layman's terms so that we don't have to look up Article 30 or, zoning regulation, whatever. And so people reading it in the newspaper say, you know what, I wanna go to that meeting. They're gonna, they're thinking of doing something, that I either want to support or I don't want to support. But if it's just these, so I've been, my pet peeve now for the last couple of months is reading all different legal notices. And some towns have like a paragraph in English that explains what the little legal notice is. And we don't seem to do that. So that's why I asked that this was put on. So if anyone else thinks that, maybe we, and I know, and I talked to the town clerk, and, I know we cover it, we hit the law. But the law is not clear unless you decide, wow, I gotta look that up and figure out what the town's trying to do.
You want to take legalese and turn it into layman. basically.
I guess maybe not on everything, but, you know, I don't know, maybe the heads of a department could say, hey, we gotta spend some extra money, and I don't even know. I mean, what's it cost for a paragraph in the newspaper to explain what you're doing? I mean, is it a lot of money?
That's a big, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a lot of
Sound
money,
is
huh?
very preferable for us for legal notices. The registers, as we see in the budget meeting, if we can get it into the pick a time, let's say it's $300, it's versus like $3,000 in the register.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
$3,000 for a legal notice?
$3,000 for a legal notice?
It's a whole
Put it under the classified ads.
Well, but
Probably
that,
get-
Lost and found.
Yeah, the register's been out of reach for some time.
Wow.
Really?
Just, yeah, for us, yeah. So the sound, as
So I don't
Anthony
know.
said, and the sound in terms of the timing as well, in terms of the publication date, when you have to have something to them and when they
Did you see
can
the
publish.
original? Is that-
So whenever possible, we try to get to the times, hands, excuse me, sometimes we're only able to get the sound.
Along with all of this, we've been talking about linking some of these notices to the website, to the town website, and using that as a way for people to better educate themselves. But I would tell you that at a recent planning and zoning meeting, a citizen tried to do exactly that and found the website a little cumbersome. So if we're looking at how we can better explain ourselves to the population, we need to make the website work in conjunction with these notices. And we can get as wordy as we want, obviously.
And maybe that's the standard we incorporate with the legal notices now with a link to the website.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, to Al's point, you know, looking at a summary or synopsis of the ordinance, at least, you know, and proposed ordinance, and that, you know, maybe we have 2 or 3 a year, if that. I don't think it's gonna be insurmountable in terms of the, you know, the cost, the charge to put that in the sound and to have a little extra.
well, in last meeting's packet, there was the summary of the proposed town ordinances, which were the two, chapter 40, the fire department, and it says 3 new chapters, all new language. So there was a summary, and that was published in the Sound on February 2nd, and they also had a summary of the other one, street signs and numbering. But I think to Al's point is the chapter 40, even though there's a summary in there, because it was so new, it was all new and all of the fees and everything, this summary really did not do it justice for what we heard at the last meeting on it. But they did attempt to do a summary of those ordinances, and there was an example, in addition to the legal notice that was posted.
Right.
So,
I also think you're playing a little bit with fire in the summary, and there almost has to be with it a disclaimer that to the extent that there's any contradiction between the summary and the actual ordinance, it's the ordinance that governs. And if you really want to know what we're talking about or looking at, you better read the entire ordinance.
well, there was
That's
on the summary, they had a little asterisk and said, you know, full details
description, yeah, full detail.
can be found on the town. They didn't have that as a disclosure, that on there.
Yeah, so to make, I think, is the threshold to be, I guess, whatever time we consider ordinances. Or if you want to extend that to P and Z text amendments.
I think you're gonna have to, because it's a surprise when you open up a text amendment and see,
Yeah.
you know.
Land use text changes can be more meaningful and significant to town people than, you know, a change in the numbering of your mailbox.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, next is a review of contract from HD Seeger Self-Insurance.
I know at the last meeting, there was some concern and confusion regarding the presentation that was made by Scott Malay and Nancy regarding the self-insurance status. I tried to summarize it in a couple pages for you. The second and third page in show the results of the most recent RFP with HD Seeger at a price of $20,000 a year for 5 years. The next highest one was $48,000, so more than double to get to the next highest folks, and it goes up from there. We do have a phone call into the one of the vice presidents at Seeger to discuss that situation. The last page of the packet is the risk corridor financing. And you see the expected claims are $5.1 million, and take the dental out, brings it about $4.8 million is our medical and prescription claims. 120% is the aggregate stop loss, 5.8, so that 970,000 is that world famous risk corridor we keep talking about. Well, over the first 2 years, we funded about $834,000 that's going towards that risk corridor, so about 86% funded. And if you wanted to raise it up, each percent would cost you about $9,700 to be split between the town and the board, prorated by the number of contracts. So if you wanted to say you're at 86, you want to go to 90 for sake of an argument, 4 more percent, be another about $40,000 to do that. But I think that's what the council's trying to get to as far as where we were with the risk corridor and what would it take to increase that if you're so inclined to do that. Does that kind of touch what you wanted to get to the last meeting? I know it was hard without a handout in front of you last time. Scott was just throwing numbers out and it kind of was hard to follow.
So one thing that kind of surprised me, you know, we've been hearing our 9 catastrophics. I mean, we hadn't heard anything about that for the year and a half that we've been self-insured, or at least I didn't.
Well,
So,
they're paid by the stop loss. They don't come out of our pocket.
Right, but
Yeah, but like,
it
yeah,
was like, you know, I thought everything was great, and I mean, are we, so it was good we had the stop loss, that was
Right.
a good decision. But is it, so it's because of those 9, because I mean, to be self-insured, and the guy told us we gotta go up like 10% this year.
Right.
That's just because of,
The highest thing,
Who's sick?
there's 3 components. There's the aggregate stop loss premium, the individual stop loss premium, and then the administrative fees. Well, the stop loss, because we took such a significant hit last year, that's the greatest amount of, they're trying to recoup that money now from us.
that's what it is.
That's the greatest, I think it's like, I forget the exact number, but that piece alone had the greatest year-over-year percentage increase. Was they took a big hit to the stop loss number, and now they're trying to recoup it by increasing the premium
Okay.
on that piece.
So I guess what took me, I guess I wasn't paying attention that we had ever heard that we hit the stop loss the last time, so that's all. But good thing we had the stop loss insurance.
right.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I see the RFP that went out for the agent broker.
Yes.
And this was done in May of last year of 2016.
That's correct.
I don't remember this coming back to the council for discussion or what happened with this. And I tried looking through the minutes to see if there ever was a discussion in regards to this.
Well, typically RFPs don't come back before the council. They're done in-house. Whatever the product happens to be, an RFP is issued and the department head at the time, whether it's Public Works or Fire or Police, gets the results and a decision is made between that department head and the town manager.
Okay. Well, I guess where I'm having a hard time with this is because this is something as the fiscal authority, and we're paying HD Seeger or a company that we went out to bid for this, that we would at least, we would at least be notified as to what happened, or that we went out for an RFP for an agent of record, we got 5 bids, and it was
What were
awarded
they?
to this, it was awarded to this company at this price. Like a point of information on there, type of thing.
I thought, there's typically, they're in your weekly report, I thought, these memos.
Yeah, well,
I just don't remember seeing, and I mean, I'll go on record as saying I was not thrilled with the presentation that we had at the last meeting, and I also brought this up, and I guess I'm looking at this and I see there's such a great difference in that some of them are also on the quotes are receiving commission. So one of my questions is, does HD Seeger get any type of commission off of Anthem?
No.
Or is it built into the policy?
No. We
At all.
changed about 7 to 10 years ago. The former mentality was the agents were paid on a commission through Anthem. And at the year we switched, the agent was supposed to receive about $110,000. And the number that we went out to the RFP was about $22,500. We saved excess of $80,000 by changing the mentality from building it into the Anthem premiums versus paying a hard dollar invoice. And we've been that way probably, I guess, let's say 7 to 10 years with the HD Seeger in that $20,000 to $22,500 per year range. They actually came down. Their initial bid was $22,500. That was for the first, I think, 5-year cycle. Then they went down to $20,000 per year. And again, I think part of the disappointment, if you will, is Dave Matthew was, the standard was up here, and I've had the conversation with Don as well, and he agrees that the current person, we kind of might have been spoiled by Dave, and we're going to try to remedy that, as I mentioned, through another means. But the dollar-wise, I mean, as far as RFP process goes, they don't come back to the council for blessing per se. I think Mike typically includes them in his weekly reports, but there's no need to come back to the council for RFPs. It's done through the department level. And you see that the price differential is pretty significant from number 1 to number 2.
I just think as a council person that, to me, it's important to know what, I mean, not necessarily that we bless the RFP, but we know what's coming back to us and what went out, because it's part of our budget that ultimately we are going to approve on here.
We may not make that part of the weekly report, I guess, as far as.
So, yeah, no, but I mean, I seem to recall we had this, conversation in terms of this same explanation that you went through, that how we were years ago, and then, took out the commissions and so forth and got them down, that we went out to council, said, yeah, let's go out to bid, and they came back again as the, as agent of record.
Correct.
That, but certainly I think more information is better. We can pass that along.
So I'll jump in with Rose on this. I gotta tell you, so, I didn't remember even going out for the RFP. And I'm thinking a majority of the council, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I'm thinking the majority of the council sitting up here was all thinking the same thing after that presentation the last time. I hope this is the last day of their contract. So then when we see this, it's like, no, we just hired them and we're down them for 3 years. I mean.
No, 5 years.
Or, well, the option for 5, right?
I don't know.
3 years and then.
3 year, 2 option years.
2 options.
Right.
So, I mean, that was just, you know what, Anthony, if that show was before us, for us to hire them, I'm not sure they would have got 1 vote to be hired.
Right.
I mean, they were bad.
I know, and I don't disagree with you. In their defense, there was no formal agenda. I said, come before the council, it was our first year of self-insurance, go over the results, talk about the highlights. I had asked Nancy to talk about the state plan, as that was on negotiations. So there was no really bullet points they were designed to speak to. It was kind of off the cuff kind of thing, and I agree with you, the presentation was not stellar. But that's,
But when you start throwing out all kinds of numbers to
Correct,
us
without a
and no
handout.
handouts.
No, I got you. I understand.
I mean, I don't care if you know numbers or not, but if you know numbers, you still couldn't follow what they were saying.
No, it was hard to follow. I hope my 1-pager here simplified it for you.
A lot better.
Thank you.
Yes. So basically it works out that to get to 100% funding on the risk corridor, we need approximately $135,000, based on the 14% that we need.
Correct.
And based on the last 2 years' percentages of how it came out of that 135, the Board of Ed would need about 100,000 to contribute to
Correct.
that.
Yeah, it's prorated with number of contracts. You're correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, don't sit down.
Yeah.
You got your financial report.
Financial report remains unremarkable, but it truly is remarkable. I had this discussion with the town engineer previously. It seems that every month I come up here and say how the revenue is greater than the year before, expenses are lower than the year before, and it just is pretty phenomenal. Taxes are right on target. You see delinquent taxes, again, through the help of the tax department and the town attorney, significant collections there. Revenue, 81.6 compared to 78.1 last year. Expense side of the house, 59.4 compared to 61.3 last year, running under budget. No departments are over budget as of this point. It's good. Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
So I see in other taxes conveyance that
Yes.
we are quite ahead, and what is that attributable to?
That's attributable to Evergreen Woods being sold.
Oh, we got
Okay.
that fee. the
Yeah, that's
transfer.
conveyance tax, the transfer, Evergreen Woods, there was
130.
three, there was Evergreen Woods, there was the Dollar General got sold after it was built, and there was a third that escapes me currently, but there were three
Okay.
significant properties
Mhm.
that got sold, Evergreen Woods being the lion's share of that.
Good job, Pat.
Well, and I mean, just based on what you said there, as a prelude going into budget season, is that, as we all have heard and read, with Governor Malloy's proposed budget, the town of North Branford right now stands to take a huge hit. And it's really unnerving for a town our size we run our budget very tight and do a great job in managing our money,
Right.
is that it's now proposed that, you know, they're gonna take money away from us to give to other towns who do not do their fiscal records as well as we do. And that's really a shame that towns like North Branford, and I'm sure there's other towns, smaller towns in the state, that this is proposed to happen to.
Now is when we encourage the public to call their representatives
Right.
up in Hartford and express your dissatisfaction with these proposals.
Right, the
It's
current pass,
imperative.
as you folks have seen, is about $3.6 million of loss of state revenue. Also coupled with that this year is the implementation of the car tax maximum,
Right.
29.36. We're gonna be significantly over that. We're gonna lose a big chunk of that money as well. So it's gonna be an interesting year, and the numbers hopefully don't pan out the way they're currently on the table for, but it's gonna be a challenging year, no doubt about
Anthony,
that.
have we pinned down a number on the contribution to the teacher retirement if in fact that were to pass?
I don't have it with me, but I do have a number, yeah.
I think it was like 1.4 million.
Yeah,
before.
it was on that same sheet that came from CCM.
Yeah.
I can get it.
It's 1.4.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Thank you.
And then the interesting thing about that question is, where in the budget do you want that to be reflected?
Right. Right.
Because I could, half of me says put it as a pension expense, half of me says put it as an education expense. Education expense would kind of skew the Board of Ed numbers per se. So would you rather see it as a pension number or as an education number?
Rather not see it.
I'd rather not see it.
Not see it at all?
Yeah.
It's an interesting question. Where do you want it to show up? I've kind of gone both ways. I'm not sure where to reflect that as in cost of education.
I definitely think it has to go under Board of Education, you know.
That's going to skew what they come to you with, and then the percentage is going to be out of whack year over year.
I know, but if you put it in the pension, it's gonna be even worse.
You tell me where you want to see it. I can show it either way. I don't know. I'm up in the air.
Now, the state doesn't have to have their budget done
Until way after ours.
until well after we
Right.
have to have ours done.
Correct. That's always the, and then there's one of the proposals, which is quite interesting, was they want the towns to shift to a September 1 fiscal year, to give them time to get the number to us. Why not back your process up
Right.
and make it earlier, to coincide with July 1st? But that's one of the proposals, to change the towns to a September 1 fiscal year. Makes no sense.
Michael, does CCM have a legal component that we'd be able to consult with as to whether or not the proposed action of the governor to pass on the teacher pension expense to the towns, whether or not that's legal, whether or not it's challengeable in court, and whether or not they're anticipating doing anything like that?
Yeah, that was a good point. CCM, yeah, I think they have legal counsel access. I can pose that question to them if it hasn't been.
I just don't
posed
see
already.
how you make a decision that he has ability to pay, so he's gonna pass it
Is
to
that-
municipalities and say, it's not my bill, it's your bill.
Right, the legal authority to do so. Okay, yeah, I'll check it. I'll ask them some more. Yeah,
I think you can cut what they're funding us for education, and as much as I hate it, I'm afraid they can do that. But to pass on what has been historically the obligation of the state of Connecticut to municipalities, I just don't understand what the legal basis for doing that is.
Right.
What are your thoughts on where to show it?
I'm sorry?
What are your thoughts on where to show it in the budget?
I thought you said shut it.
No, sir. What do you feel? Education expense or pension
I
expense?
think it's an education
Education.
expense. It's their personnel, and it's a benefit payable to their former personnel.
Okay.
And you can just make a footnote.
Okay.
I mean, we'll just follow it, and hopefully it will come out of the budget, that it won't go through, so.
I can't believe it's gonna pass.
I would hope not.
My next item is tax refunds. Somebody want to move that?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add a new item, item F, the John's Refuse contract.
Second.
Discussion?
Take a vote to that now.
Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Okay. As you know, we are in contract negotiations with John's Refuse, and one of the points in the contract is that if we are going to go out to bid, we need to let them know by next Tuesday, which is 120 days before the end of the contract. We are still negotiating with them. One of the things that we asked them to come back to us with is the cost of bulk trash, because as we all know, they wanted to reopen the contract a couple years ago, and to renegotiate that part, we said no. So in their proposal back to us, they have a separate cost for bulk trash. We asked them to give us a price to keep it as is, which is every week, to do once a month, or to do quarterly. We did not want to go back to the twice a year, April and November. So their current numbers that they have proposed to us, we are still negotiating with them. We're not so sure that we can reach something by next Tuesday with them. So it would be my suggestion that we send the letter to them, telling them that we're gonna go out to bid, and we still continue to negotiate. But I would like the RFP to come back to the council at our March 7th meeting so that we can review it, and that would give us 2 extra weeks to negotiate with them. And if by chance we can come to an agreement on it, then we don't have to put the RFP out. So the 2 things to decide for the council to discuss tonight, one is if you would like to go that route, to go out to bid, and the second is on the bulk trash. What's your inclination to go, to stay as is, go to once a month, or to go to quarterly?
I would say no fewer than once a month. That would be my.
I would say it should be dictated by the cost, what we could say. But I think we definitely should initiate the RFP process.
Okay.
Because if you go quarterly, it'll probably reduce it drastically.
It will be,
Use
but
both.
Well, I can tell you that the current numbers that they propose to us, the cost difference does not equate to the level of the reduction in service. And that was one of the points that we brought up to them. And so they are willing to take a counter proposal from us in regards to that. So that's where we have some leeway in regards to it. And so that's why I wanted to put it on the agenda, to get the feeling of the council as to how you would like us to proceed with that. So they did give us the 3 different cost options, but we can tweak that some with them on that. And they actually, told us today they totally understood if we had to go out to bid, and that they would probably bid on the contract themselves, but, if they got that letter from us, it would not surprise them. So I would like to make a motion that we prepare an RFP to go out to bid, send John's Refuse a letter telling them that, but also tell them that, counter their, to go still negotiate with them and try and have a resolution by our next meeting. If not, then we can always institute the RFP.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mayor Duty.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Fawnin.
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni.
Yes.
Counselor Arman.
Yes.
Counselor Candelora.
Yes.
Counselor Diamond.
Yes.
Counselor Manna.
Yes.
Counselor Miller.
Yes.
Counselor Rose.
Yes.
Okay, next is citizen statements and petitions.
I have 2 comments. I'll keep them really brief. One is as the chief, and the second as a taxpayer. So as the chief, on March 7th, we've been asked by the management of Notifier Firelight to work with them on a project. There's a small child that resides in the state of Michigan that has autism that was picked on by some people in a supermarket. And it made national news. And he was mimicking the sound of a fire alarm. And this reached Notifier Firelight Management. And it also reached many other fire alarm manufacturers throughout the US. And they sent him different components of fire alarm systems, pull boxes, strobe lights, that type of stuff, because of his fixation. And Firelight is flying him here on the 7th for his birthday. So we've been asked to partner up with Notifier and work with them on his welcoming at the Northford facility. I think it's a great opportunity to show the town's willingness to partner up with a major taxpayer, and our personnel are more than glad to take time out of their day, and it's before a lunchtime event, and help them out. So my chief's hat off, and I hear all this information about getting information out about ordinances to the public so they're aware of what's going on in town, right? So, and I know the expense of putting something in the paper. I stopped by the New Haven Register about 6 months ago because there's about 3 pages you can read in it. And we look for our name in one of those pages. So is there any consideration for the town to put together its own Facebook page and Twitter page? There's probably more people that read things on both of those social media sites than any newspaper. And with regards to the Pawtucket Times, it could take 3 weeks for you to get something in there and published. And that's a substantial length of time. But it's just a thought, and there's so many people that do social media on an hourly basis, 24/7, 365, that from an emergency operations standpoint, it's better than reverse 911. That's how quick information is spread. So it may be an avenue to get information out to the public, and managed by somebody in town hall in their free time that would really make this town stand out above all others to get timely information out, and downloaded PDF files that can be put onto the website and easily read, as opposed to searching through the Town of North Branford website. So just one person's opinion.
Okay, next we'll go into executive session.
Make a motion to.
First one is Connecticut General Statute 1-200, 6D, discussion and selection of sale, site or lease, sale, purchase, or real estate, 305 Forest Road, Northford. And then the next is,
I make the motion to move to executive session to include town manager and town attorney and finance director. Oh, and Carrie. Okay.
Carrie.
Second.